12-7, the final score, Tennessee over Cambell, and advancing on to the Knoxville Regional Final that'll take place Sunday, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Eric Kane, and Ben McKee is at Lindsey at Nelson Stadium tonight. Ben, a fun game. As Tony Vitello said post-game, if you pay for the price of admission, you got your money's worth tonight, because it was a little bit of back and forth in a game that had just a little bit of everything.
It did, and it's hard to sit back and reflect on the wild ride, if I can speak correctly, that was this baseball game. And I'll tell you one thing, and Tennessee emphasized this as well. Tony Vitello, Drew Gilbert, Kirby Connell, they were the three that spoke after the game, and they emphasized this, and I could not agree more. I thought it while I was watching the game. Cambell's the real deal, man. Cambell is the real deal. Well, we knew their lineup was the real deal, and as you and I talked about on the preview podcast that we do, the Diamond Balls podcast, like their lineup's legit, man, and they beat NCAA tournament teams throughout the non-conference. So you knew that although the Big South is bad, you knew that the level of competition would translate, because they beat Air Force, they beat Army. Those are two NCAA tournament teams. They beat an Ohio State team that's a little bit down, but still they beat some NCAA tournament teams, and they certainly lived up to the price of admission that Tony Vitello referred to. And they have pitching, and Tony pointed out that he would describe them as a better, he didn't say this, but another version of Wright State, to be the difference being that both teams have the bats, and he's referring to last year's Wright State team, but this Cambell team has the pitching to go with it, and you certainly saw that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of pitching, Chase Dollander, not his best night, of course, got roughed up a little bit. 2 2/3 innings, 70 pitches. You knew he was going to go into this game, did stop the bleeding some. But, hey, the story of the night, one of the main stories of the night, obviously, the hero of the night is Kirby Connell, coming in 4 innings, saving that bullpen. He does give up 2 runs later in the game, but 4 strikeouts, 65 pitches, going about as far as he's ever gone. I think he played hero tonight, saved Tennessee's bullpen, and is probably the reason why Tennessee won tonight.
Absolutely. I don't know about the reason, because Tennessee had a lot of pieces to piece together to get that puzzle completed. But I agree with the sentiment that you're expressing. He was massive for Tennessee, and Tennessee owes him a whole lot. I said on Twitter that his teammates need to take care of his lunch and dinner all next week. And we saw the turkey leg in Starkville. Chase Burns needs to find another turkey leg and give him another bite of that turkey, because he picked this team up. And we can touch on Chase Dollander next. Chase wasn't as bad as his final line indicates. And he still only got through 3 innings. I think it was 2 1/3, I believe. And Kirby not only came in and got Tennessee out of a bases loaded jam when it was 4-0. If he doesn't get out of that jam, who knows what this game spirals into. Obviously, the Bats going to score 12 runs for Tennessee, but if it's a 7-0 game instead of a 4-0 game after 3 innings, who knows how tonight goes. So not only did he get them out of that jam, but the guy who claims he's a lefty specialist goes on to throw a career high in pitches, throws 4 innings. He was commanding the ball really well, gave up a 2-run homer, but 2 runs over 4 innings against this lineup, you sign up for that all day long, and only gave up 3 hits. Kirby was really, really good. So not only saved Tennessee in tonight's game when they needed it most, but like you mentioned, Eric, he saves the bullpen. Did not have to really run through the bullpen tonight, and that saves them for the rest of the weekend. And just in the grand scope of things, you don't want to play 2 games tomorrow. Cambell now has to turn around and beat Georgia Tech tomorrow, then has to beat Tennessee tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if they're lucky enough to win those 2 games, they have to turn around and win a game 7 on Monday. And Tennessee maybe has the pitching depth to get through that 3 games in 2 days. Cambell, Georgia Tech, they do not. So winning tonight's game for that reason was absolutely critical.
And having to win tonight's game, had to come out of a 4-0 hole there in the 3rd inning. And Tennessee fought right back, scored 3 in the top of the 4th. An RBI single from Trey Lipscomb, a 2-run bomb from Jarrell Ortega. In the top of the 5th inning, Tennessee scored 4 runs to take the lead, scoring 7 unanswered runs at the time. Drew Gilbert, a 3-run home run. And, of course, Jarrell Ortega, another RBI single. Later in the game, you had another Blake Burke. He had a Burke blast coming in. You had a big hit for Christian Moore, a 3-run home run from Cortland Lawson. Again, it's kind of like what you and I always talk about. You can never, ever count this team out until the game is finally over. Those bats came through in a monster way and won kind of in a slugfest at the end of the game, 12-7.
Right, and it was a little hairy there, man, with the way Cambell was chasing Chase Dolander from the game. I mean,
Yeah.
it did not look good. It did not feel good. You're thinking, at least I was, man, if Campbell's doing this to Chase Dolander, Tennessee's best pitcher, who I consider the best pitcher in the country, the SEC pitcher of the year, what are they going to do to the rest of Tennessee's guys? And is Tennessee's bats going to be able to get going? Because Cade Cooler, their starter, he was awesome. Everybody talks about Thomas Harrington, their soon-to-be first-round pick, and their ace, and rightfully so. But Cade's stuff was just as good. Mid-90s fastball, really, really good slider. And it had Tennessee fooled those first couple of innings, and they were able to get to him a little bit, but really battled throwing near 110 pitches, and Tennessee really exploded when Cambell got into the bullpen. So that was really impressive on Campbell's part, obviously, but it wasn't feeling good there for a minute, is my overall point. And Tennessee's bats were finally able to get going. And we could sit here and talk about the bats all night long. And Christian Moore, a pinch hit, 2-run or an RBI single with 2 outs to make it a 2-run game. That set up Cortland Lawson's big-time homer in the bullpen. And we were talking up here in the press box about the importance of getting insurance runs. And Tennessee was able to do so, and do so in impressive fashion, in the sense of Blake Burke hits a home run, a solo home run, to make it a 2-run game. Cambell comes back and hits a home run to make it a 1-run game. And Cambell responds to Tennessee's haymaker, and Tennessee then responds to Campbell's haymaker by coming out and scoring all the runs that they did in the top of the 8th inning. So that was really impressive and really critical. It felt like a night where you had to have insurance runs, because Campbell's not going to go down without a fight. I was so impressed by them post-game. If you have time, go watch their post-game following tonight's loss and listen to their coach speak, listen to their players speak, and you'll see why they are so good.
Yeah, it's a good-looking ball club, that is for sure. And a final note of importance for this for tonight, for Tennessee's sake, it got Evan Russell back in the ball game. Came on as a defensive replacement late in that baseball game. Came on, actually had a hit in the 9th inning. And this Tennessee baseball team much better with Evan Russell than without Evan Russell. I thought that was good to get him back in the game tonight.
It certainly was. It certainly was, and we'll see what his role looks like going forward. We'll see if he gets his starting position back. I do think it would be safe to assume, and this is purely my opinion, my assumption. I think it's safe to assume that he would regain his starting role for next weekend if Tennessee is able to make it to the Super Regionals, and we'll see about tomorrow. I'm not quite sure. Maybe for Evan's sake, it's a positive sign that he got in at the end of the game and was productive. Maybe that bodes well for him personally, that he'll be back in the starting lineup tomorrow. But I think Tony Vitello is going to play that situation slowly and cautiously. And look, Charlie Taylor's held his own. Has a beautiful bunt for an RBI against Alabama State on Friday night. Nearly hit a home run in that same game, was a couple of feet away from a 2-run home run. Had a beautiful at-bat tonight against Cambell. 10 pitches, draws a walk. He fouled off 5 pitches. 4 of those 5 foul-offs were with 2 strikes. Very impressive at-bat. And he hasn't necessarily been tested a ton behind the plate, but he's held his own behind the plate. So good to see Evan Russell back. We'll see what his role looks like going forward, but really, really cool to see the ovation he received as he stepped into the box. He hits a single, gets another ovation standing at first. His teammates responded well to him as well. They celebrated him, and it was cool to hear Evan Russell chants throughout Lindsey Nelson Stadium tonight as Tennessee wins their 55th game of the year, a new program record.
Yeah, and it came in a game where Tennessee once trailed 4-0, but then proceeded to pound out 12 runs off 15 hits and to hold on for the final score of 12-7 over Cambell. Tennessee a chance to wrap up the Knoxville Regional Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And of course, we'll have plenty of coverage from tonight and leading up to that game at Volquest.com. For Ben McKee at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, I'm Eric Kane. This has been Around the Horn on Volquest.com.